You're listening to Mattress Matters, the podcast that brings you real strategies and business growth insights from successful store owners across the country. Hosted by James Cluster of Sell More Mattresses, this show is your go-to resource for boosting sales, mastering marketing, and building a thriving business. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and equipped with the tools to take your store to the next level.
I am here with Johnathan Morrison, who is a Mattress By Appointment store owner in Iowa, North Iowa. And he is a fantastic store owner and a great salesman. And probably my favorite part about him is he's a Lego fan. All right, there you go. See? Yeah, in case he's bored, he's got some Legos. I love it. And also a big data nerd, which for me, whose business relies on data, is incredibly important. Thank you, Johnathan, for being on this burgeoning podcast.
I appreciate it. You're totally welcome. Glad to be here.
Very good. Very good. So I have a number of questions for you. It's going to be very free-flowing, this conversation. I think that there's lots of sources and resources in the industry. There's some cool Facebook groups out there. There's some other store owners doing cool and interesting marketing things and whatnot. But I think that we don't necessarily get to hear everybody's stories very often. And so that's really what I want to do with this podcast, is hear from individual owners about the day in and day out and what they're going through. And there's also a lot of people that are curious about the industry. And obviously there's no shortage of mattress stores out there, which is always curious to people too. Why that is. We were just saying before we got recording that you have wiped the slate clean. And we're rolling into 2025. We're 4 days in, and here you go again. How does that feel?
It's, if you're a data person like I do, who tracks everything on a yearly basis, like I mentioned to you, this isn't even a marathon. This is an ultramarathon, and we're just starting out. Like, yeah, okay, it's January 3rd. All right, here we go. We got Q1. Like Q1's the crazy time, and then we got Q2, and then Q3 and Q4, and you just got to keep going. And so for me, like a data person, man, I've spent like the last 3 days just going over stuff that I accumulated and everything that my system was able to chew up and provide me some insights from last year to be able to make decisions now. But the funny part is, okay, I track my database on a yearly basis. So now I refreshed everything, and I've just been putting my sales into it. I was like, no data here, because there's only a handful of entries. It's that weird time, because I'm super happy that I have all that data from last year. That I can look at it, make decisions, but I'm just building the new data set too.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel like they're doing that every month. That it's a bunch of mini marathons on the way to this large ultra marathon, like you said. And we were talking the other day, and you were sharing your numbers for 2024, and you were really excited about them and felt good about it, and setting your goals for 2025. And feels like a big jump to be hitting the numbers that you were at, and now you're like 4 days later, we're talking about, okay, we're at zero, and here we go again.
It's in this industry, we always joke, like on the first of every month, you're at zero. And you can even get more finite. Every week, every day, you start the morning off at zero. It's okay. When you're in sales, every day starts with zero. What are you going to make of it? So You're right. There are all these little mini segments in there as well.
What is that? So tell me about that, like on a daily or a monthly basis. And then we're going to go a little more high level with some of the questions I have. That's a really interesting point. Like on a daily or monthly basis, like what is that feeling of every day is zero until it's not, or every month is zero until it's not? What is that like for you as a store owner, as a business owner?
You can't let it get too much into your head. You can joke about it, but the thing is, you got to be able to handle the swings in this business. You got to be able to handle you don't bat very well for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden Saturday comes and you can't keep up, and nobody's keeping their appointment times. They're either early or they're late, and like all of a sudden you got 3 families in the store, and you're trying to control 3 different sales processes. And so you got to be able to handle the swings. For me, on a daily basis, it's okay, is my messaging on point? Well, let's even take a step back. So for me, this business is very simple from my perspective. Marketing creates messaging. You in turn message people to get appointments. You're not trying to sell a mattress, you're trying to get an appointment. Okay. Appointments, you then have a sales process that you then turn into revenue. And so for me, every morning it's okay, you wake up, has your marketing been on point? is your marketing getting messages, and are you in turn messaging back correctly to get appointments? Are you getting those people to come in the store? And then once they come in that door, I've got the mindset, hey, it just cost me ballpark $75 to get that person in the door, right?
Yeah.
That's a ballpark number. I'm in the hole when they walk in that door.
Yeah.
Now, this is the only point in this entire opportunity that I had to convert that to revenue. And so then once they're in the door, it's all about, okay, now I'm in control. I'm in control of my sales process. I got to make sure that they leave with the best solution for them, because when that person walks in the door, there's two problems, and each of them has a solution. Problem number one is they need a mattress. Problem number two, I got mattresses. We've both got to solve each other's problem.
Yeah.
And so that's my daily mentality.
I like that. That's good. That keeps it pretty clean and objective rather than subjective. It's just a math problem to solve rather than getting, like you say, like getting emotional about it or putting too much weight into what's going on in the store. So and for the audience, how long have you been in business? How long has your store been open? And what were you doing before this? What brought you into mattresses to begin with?
This isn't an answer you're going to hear from a lot of people, but I was a professional drone pilot. I flew in oil and gas. My brother has an oil and gas consulting company. I ran our drone division. And unfortunately, my specialty became emergency response. So like when the wheels would fall off at an oil refinery or a wellhead or a process facility, and they would need documentation or emergency response, I was the guy who went and did that. And so that makes your schedule real difficult to manage. My wife and I were actually at the airport going to New York City to see a show on Broadway, and I got a call from a client. This is what put me over the edge. A call from a client who was a very good friend who I just the year before hunted in Alaska with. And hey man, we bumped a crane into a tower. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Tells me, I go, all right, I'll send the guys from Duluth. This is Minneapolis at the time. I go, they'll be there in 3 hours. Get y'all taken care of. He goes, no, dude, I need you at my facility, and I need you here in 2 hours. I'm like, dude, I'm getting on a plane to go on a bucket list vacation with my wife. And I was like, it's a much longer story than that. I'm like, I gotta get out of this business. Yeah. And got the keys to our original location March 1st, 2022. So we are coming up on 3 years. That was our original location. Bought this location November of 2023. By the time we did the build out and all that stuff, we got in here September 1 of 2024. So we're coming up on 3 years.
Yeah. That's awesome. What were some of the challenges that you faced when you first opened? Like when you were first opening your doors, what were some of the things? I know we can talk a little bit about that you're part of a franchise and that you have there's some components there for education and resources and things. But outside of that, what were some of the challenges that you faced just opening your doors that you weren't maybe prepared for, especially like going into business for yourself for the first time?
I wasn't prepared for dealing with a commercial leasing business where like their contracts are wonderfully ironclad, and they're like, hey, you got to put this backlit sign out front. Great. How much are those? They're $5,000. Oh, okay. How long do I have to get one of those up? You got 30 days. Oh, okay. I'll just find the money for that. And then the company wants another $3,000 to install it. So like me and my buddy went and rented scaffolding one day and installed it on a Sunday, and people were walking by us like, you guys are going to kill yourself. We're like, yeah, probably. It'd be fun. And then they come in and they're like, you can't just have a concrete floor in here. You've got to put down flooring. And I'm like, they're like, but you have what's called tenant improvement money, something like that, where they gave me money to improve my space on the inside, and it covered 25% of what I had to spend. And so you're dealing with these big companies, like I wasn't prepared for that. Luckily, I had the money to be able to put down flooring, and I went super cheap and did it all on myself. It was, man, I painted the walls and they were garbage. Like it's bad. I get guys who come in, yeah, what do you do for work? I'm a painter. I was like, don't look at my walls, please.
No judgment.
Yeah, no judgment. I mean, that, and the biggest thing for me is once I got the doors open, man, I didn't know how to sell. I was bad. I hadn't sold anything since college. I could talk to people, but like I didn't understand that there's a process and there's control and I didn't understand any of that. That was my biggest struggle in the beginning.
Okay. So when it comes to sales, what are some of the things like recognizing, I guess one question, like how quickly did you recognize that you had a problem with it versus like you were just going through the motions of not being good at sales? And how did you
I,
overcome that? What are some of the things that you did to overcome that?
yeah, so one of the things I did in my back office in that building is I got that dry erase paint, so you can do an entire wall and have a dry erase board, right?
Sure, yeah.
And I had that. By the way, that stuff's really expensive. I went 0 for 3 in my first 3 appointments. And I have a picture of this. I wrote 0 for 3 and I dated it. And under it, I said, I need to be good at this. I will be great at this. And I dated it. And that was like my affirmation, buddy, you got to get your crap together.
Yeah.
And so for me, I didn't jump into, I'm going to go and read sales books like right away. That came much later on. But like my original mentor that I had was wonderful. And I was like, dude, what am I doing? He's like, put your phone in your pocket, hit audio record, send me the file. I'll tell you what you're doing wrong. And I just recorded sale after sale. And I would go through them. And I'm like, there was a buying question I totally missed. Like, dummy, you should have been like, oh, okay, that's the one that works for you. Do you want delivery or do you want to take it home now?
Yeah.
And so what I did is, man, I grew up Division I hockey referee for 27 years. I've watched myself on video more than I would like to admit because that's how they trained us. And I was like, okay, well, I started replaying everything. And that's how I learned.
I love that. We hear that a lot in sales and marketing, the Michael Jordan watching his tapes over and over again. And I think that is a really good point. Doing the due diligence to record yourself and then actually not just record it, but go back and sit through it and listen to it and actually make notes and take notes on what you were doing and pulling out those moments and going, oh, yeah, I messed up here. And that's cool. Like from your perspective, because you other dealers and store owners out there, like how often do you think people are taking steps like that when it comes to improving their sales?
You don't want my honest answer, man.
I do want your honest answer. That's what this is about.
It's minuscule. It is like, I would ask people and that I got to know in this business, have you read a sales book? Have you role played with a friend? Have you with your significant other? This is a learned trade. You have to keep doing it. In the beginning, you might not get many reps. And so every time that ball's coming at the plate, you got to give yourself an opportunity to hit it. And I unfortunately don't think people process it that way, the way that I did. And that's unfortunate, man, because like I burned every ship, right? You've heard that, burn your ships to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
I did, man. I quit my job. I called my brother.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, dude, I'm done. He's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to sell mattresses. He's like, you're going to do what? I go, man, I'm opening a mattress store. He goes, great. He goes, you got 6 months. You can call me back and you can have your old job back. And I said, no, dude, I love you, but I'm not doing it. My wife was like, what are you going to do if this doesn't work? I go, it will. She goes, you can't just say that. And I said, no, I can. It will work. She goes, what are you going to do if it doesn't? I said, I'll go get a job at a factory. We'll figure it out. And so I painted myself into a corner, burned my ship. So I had to break down my sales process.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice.
That's really important because I think that there are store owners out there that we work with or that we have the opportunity to work with sometimes, and they're, for lack of a better word, they're dabbling. It's definitely a side gig. It's maybe a gig on top of a full time. It's if you had kept your drone job and then we're doing this, and then why am I not making the big bucks? Why am I not doing as much as I want to do? What's your opinion about somebody that's halfway invested in a business like this?
It works. You can start off that way. I know, I'm not going to name names, man, but I know there was dealers in my team that, who, when I started working with them in March of April last year, they were doing 5, 7, 8K a month. And then all of a sudden we started really working hard together. And then it went to 10 and 15 and 25 and 30 and 35. And then all of a sudden in November, they're like, I did 49K. I'm banging it out in December. And by the way, I've been looking for an exit out of my job. And one of my top dealers, and he became a really good friend in this business. Like he called me on December 22nd. He's like, I got called out at a meeting at my employer. They said, you don't look like you're very interested to be here. And he goes, I'm not. And they go, what do you want to do? And he goes, can today be my last day? And they're like, oh, I guess so. And so it works.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I love him to death. But here's the thing. There's a difference between having a side hustle that you are nurturing, that you have plans to turn into something for income replacement, lifestyle change, getting back your time, or a hobby. This would be a really expensive hobby if I didn't put all the effort into it. And I can't afford for this to be a hobby.
Yeah.
I'm a Lego guy. I already have an expensive hobby.
Yep.
And so you talk to people and they're like, oh, well, yeah, I only did X number of dollars last month. And then you like reverse engineer the math and go, okay, let's for easy math. You did 10K last month. Great. Half of that, probably more than half of that was cost of goods sold, because you probably don't have the skill set to be selling above 50% margin. So you're probably selling at a mid to low 40s. Okay, so let's call it 5,500 to $6,000 was cost of goods sold on 10K in revenue. Take out your rent, take out your marketing, take out your utilities. Is there any money left over for you to pay yourself? Probably not.
No.
Okay, what do we need to do to turn that number from 10 to 20? Because now when we turn it to 20, there's money left over for you to continue to build momentum and make some changes. And so I gave a presentation. I said, I don't care if this is your side hustle, treat it like your own Fortune 500 company. If you do that, you'll be successful. If you treat it like a hobby, you won't.
That's totally fair. I definitely think it comes down to the mindset of what you're trying to do with it. If it is something that you want to like long-term build into, something that you can actually pay the bills with and make more money than you might be making now. But if you're just trying to kind of stuff it off to the side, it's never going to get off the ground. You were pointing to the mattresses behind you, and I'm curious, from an inventory standpoint, like how did you work on building your inventory and how do you work on managing your inventory? Because like you said, if you've got 10K in sales, maybe 5,600 of that is cost of goods and whatnot, or roughly. So like, how did you manage your starting inventory and build it up to something that could grow and grow in terms of your monthly revenue?
It was sell, replace, build. So it was like, okay, let's call it your 1050 mattress. You sold one, you took the revenue to replace that one and then buy another. And then you realized essentially, I remember talking to my mentor, what your par level needed to be, right? We looked at a month's worth of sales and said, okay, you're doing really good at selling this particular group of mattresses. You're doing a really good job of not selling this particular group of mattresses. Okay, so let's build up inventory here. And we set these par levels. Okay. And so when we knew building, so for me, it was replace and build. And then once I got it to where I was comfortable with those numbers and I could handle the spikes, like all of a sudden 4 people in a row buy that particular mattress, because you can't sell what you don't have. And I got comfortable there. Okay, that's when I was really starting to put some money away to pay myself and replace that salary that I had before. But like for me,
roughly how long do you feel like that took you to do that, build a little bit, and then get to the point where you were maybe able to pull a little bit out?
I did it quick, man. I did it in under 3 months.
Nice. Okay.
I came out hot. I came out hot in this business. This is a true story. My original phone call with Katie Hine, who's got the closest store to me, it's about 70 miles away. She knew I was going to call her. She answers the phone. She goes, "You're the guy who's going to open the store in Mesa City." And like literally two hours ago, I talked to Ellie Ayler in Sioux City, because that's whose store I saw. And I go, I don't know. I just found out about this business. She goes, "Your market will be the same as mine if you don't open a store there. You're an idiot. I have somebody walking and I'll call you back in 20. Click." I'm like, okay. And so I just knew I could knock it out of the park. I just took all that low-hanging fruit in the beginning and ran with it.
So those first 90 days, what should somebody who's opening a store, if they're motivated to be successful as fast as you, what kind of actions is that person taking in those 90 days to get there? What are some of the things that you did or standards you held yourself to be aggressive in those 90 days and make those 90 days really work?
I remember, because it can be slow in the beginning, right? You've got all this stuff in you, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to sell all, right? And you don't have a ton of appointments coming in, and sometimes you're not doing really well at selling them when they come in. So there was some downtime. This is one thing I remember doing. I had a catalog of about 30, 35 images. And then I had another 15 titles and another 15 descriptions for all my marketplace listings, right? Because I was going cheap in the beginning. This is back in 2022. I think I came on with you guys July 1st, 2022, if memory serves me correct.
Yep.
And so this is the 3 months leading up to it. And I remember this, the nerd in me every day would go through and say, this image got this many clicks. This title got this many clicks. I didn't worry so much about description because, let's be honest, the image and the title, nobody reads. They click, is this available? And so I went through and I went, oh my gosh, these are the titles that are getting exponentially more clicks than these. These are the images that are doing so much better than these. And so what I did with those in the beginning is I knew what people really liked. And those are the ones that I boosted. So that was the bait, and the rest of the were just there to push out my competition when someone searched for a mattress on Marketplace. And so that's what I did. And I had an alarm set at 8, 10, noon, 3, 6. And I did a Marketplace listing at those times every day, 7 days a week, without fail, because I had to fill Marketplace, because I had to push my competition to the bottom. And so that's the thing I did in the beginning, and it made all the difference.
That's awesome. I love that attention to detail. And again, like, you're a data guy. And so looking at what's working and doubling down on it, I think is really important. Again, in those first 90 days, what role do you think that reviews for your business and or referrals play, in terms of marketing your business and putting yourself out there more?
You got to get, man, if you got 0 Google reviews in this day, people, who is this guy? You're starting a business in my area nobody had ever heard of before. And I lost track of the number of times I would get a female appointment and 2 women would show up. Okay. And it'd be like, oh, who's this? Oh, this is my friend Tammy. 5 minutes later, Tammy would leave. She'd bye. And I was like, oh, that was your safety buddy. She goes, uh-huh. She goes, you're a brand new business, man. I didn't know who you were. I'm like, I get it. Not offended. Totally get it. And so I had to get those reviews in the beginning to show legitimacy. Had to. In terms of referrals, my 2 buddies in this business, Drew and Luis, were killer dealers. They give me crap all the time. They're like, oh, you know what? Did your principal's brother stop into the store today and buy a mattress from everybody? And I'm just like, okay, man, I live in a small town. I moved away for a while, but this is home for me. You just got to treat everybody decent.
Yeah.
And when you do that, people will say amazing things about you. Just go above and beyond. Okay. Yeah, delivery's a little bit of time. I'm doing a delivery after this of a upholstered platform bed. Yeah, it's going to take me a half hour, but okay. Guy had a little bit of a disability. He couldn't take it with me in a tiny car. Be a human about it.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like, what services or policies do you have that are going the extra mile and make a difference to the customer? Are there specific things you've done or tried in your business that you've seen are more impactful to a customer for you?
This business is humbling. If you lived in the median income in my town is less than 25K. The median family is right around 50. Okay, there are some people that don't have a lot of money and are underbanked, all that stuff. And so for me, I'm going to try to find a solution. You come to me and you got $350, you don't have a bank account, you can't get a payment plan. I'm going to do my best to get you in the best mattress possible, right? Because I want you to have a good experience. If you come in and you get approved on qualified for $500, I'm going to get you bumped to $575. I'm going to sell you a mattress that I generally sell for $750. I'm still making money. You're happy. I'm going to leverage that into getting a picture and a Google 5-star review or a Facebook check-in, because there's value in all those things.
Yeah.
And It's made me realize I was very fortunate to be able to grow up in the family that I did, because I've seen some people who had it a lot rougher than me. On the other side of the coin is in terms of like policies that I don't know if this is your exact question, but I'm gonna like this thing that I've come up with here. So I carry a particular mattress that I carry 3 different versions of: a medium, a soft, and a firm. Okay, it's my number 1 selling mattress. Okay, it accounts for almost 25% of the profit that comes into my store.
Okay.
And I'll get people who are like, oh, what happens if I got the medium and my husband got the firm? And what happens if all of a sudden my husband decides that he wants the firm? And I've had this happen, or some other field. And I'll go, listen, I came up with this one day and I can't believe I did it. And it's worked perfectly. And I go, hey, so here's the deal. I have a wonderful relationship with the rep for this particular company. If you come back to me in a couple months and say, hey, Johnathan, we messed up. I messed up. My wife has the firm. I love the firm. I bought the medium. Is there any way I can get into the firm? I'll be like, hey, my rep gives me 2 customer retention spiffs per year, which allows me to purchase at a significant discount at the wholesale level a mattress to replace the one that you don't like. Now, I can't just give it to you. I've got to charge you, but I'm going to charge you that discounted rate. So you're essentially going to get it for a little less than half of what you paid for it. I can do that for you. What do you think about that? Oh, you would do that for me? Yeah, no problem. Now, I put it into play twice, and the customer's been like, yeah, no problem. And I'm like, okay, it's $700.
Yeah.
I'm covering my expense. They're totally happy.
Yeah.
And they love me for it. But I've used that, and that's one of those things where, I don't know, it just came out of my mouth one day, and I've ran with it.
That's
Customer
great.
retention spiff.
I love it. Customer retention spiff. That's awesome.
It doesn't cost me any money, and they're happy.
That's great. Speaking of costs, are there any, it feels pretty straightforward as far as rent, cost of goods, maybe gas and stuff for a delivery vehicle or your vehicle. Are there any hidden costs or unexpected costs that have come up in running the store that you weren't prepared for, or you didn't think about, or that other people might not think about?
I feel like insurance is a scam. I do. I get my notifications from my insurance agent. I'm like, I don't even want to look, right? Because you got to insure your inventory, right?
Yeah.
You got to insure from somebody taking a header on your entering your store. You got to have insurance for a kid jumping on a mattress and their head hitting the concrete. Like all that stuff, all this stuff keep adding up. And then if you get to the point where you're like me and this is your primary source of income, you got to have income replacement insurance, right? Because if this place goes up in flames or floods or something like that, we just can't turn off the income spigot. So I got to have that insurance. And so it's insurance every time I turn around. I'm like, are you serious? And I remember reading an article once that said people overpay approximately 40% on their with their insurance because they have a personal relationship with their insurance agent and they're afraid to upset them. Like I need to be going to an insurance broker every year and being like,
yeah,
what do you got?
Yeah, do better for me. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. What have you noticed as far as, okay, so we just completed 2024, we're going into 2025. What did you see as like the ebbs and flows of business last year?
I missed out on the whole 2020 post-COVID tax money where like people were just like, I gotta get rid of this cash.
Yeah, people were throwing cash out the window.
Yeah, I missed out on that. And I didn't get I had my first sale on March 28th of 2022. So I literally missed tax season even in 2022. And so like for me, obviously February and March this last year were my biggest months. What I wanted to do is, because I looked at the ebbs that I had the year before, which were late May and early June, those months were really low. Those were record low months. And I was like, okay, what do I do in those months this year to not experience that again? Because I know how those months really hurt my bottom line. And so for me, it was being able to look back at that data from a year ago and now 2 years ago, looking at what I did different so I don't have to experience those ebbs. because those are what make you miss your goal by $811.79 for the year 2024.
Not that anyone's counting.
Not that anyone's counting. And also, this may not directly answer that question, but like the way my accounting is done, every time I discount a product, so let's say hypothetically, I have a product that is listed at $1,000 and I sell it for $900. My accounting reports the $1,000 as revenue, but that has an expense line item called discount that shows the $100 that came off of it. And so at the top of my P&L, I've got gross revenue, which is based upon what I sold it for and what I should sell it for, right? The $1,000. And then I've got a negative underneath that shows discount. So every month I've got this thing staring me in the face, showing me how much I discounted my product. And it can be a wake-up call.
That makes sense. So what did you end up doing in May, June differently, knowing that May, June the year before had been slower? Were there what actions did you take, if any?
Well, I didn't take the action that a lot of people incorrectly do, which is to get off the gas pedal. Right? The whole, hey, I know it's going to be slow. I'm going to save money and spend less on marketing. Like, no, you can't do that. I'm not saying that I doubled my budget, okay, but I stayed on the gas. Additionally, I had a lot more time then before some other responsibilities to just really hit the content creation hard. And so for May and June, I already had a backlog of 67 videos I had made and still had the raw copies of that I had done on TikTok. Okay, I can't geolocate in my city for TikTok, so advertising on TikTok is a complete waste. I repurposed all of it, into Facebook and YouTube. I'd already put in all the sweat equity, and so like my feed was just blowing up. You were getting drowned in content from me, and that allowed me to not get that ebb.
That's awesome. That's actually really cool, because that's also something that we're heavily pointing toward in 2025 is content. And I think that strategy is really wise. The local celebrity idea of how much can you put yourself out there? And I was actually listening to an Alex Hormozy podcast this morning, and he was talking about that you might feel like you're putting out too much content, or you're just like you're overwhelming people. But even when he was like pitching his book a year ago and had all this stuff going, like he'd literally meet people walking down the street who knew who he was, but knew nothing about his book launch. And he was like, how can you not know? Like, I'm putting out so much content. I've got this and that and this and that still. So it's like whatever level you think you're at, like probably double down on that and go even crazier and see what kind of impact that has on your business. Right. So that's cool. Okay, so I have two final questions for you here.
Oh, final.
And I appreciate that we've been talking for a good 40 minutes now, so I really appreciate your insight, and I think people are going to get a kick out of hearing what you have to say. Two questions. Number one, if you could go back to the beginning, March 2022, is there anything you would do differently about opening the store, and why?
Oh, there's a huge one. You ever seen those TikTok videos where the audio is, we effed up? Oh, we effed up. Those, like somebody backs into another car or something like that. This is a true story. My old shop was 13 and a half feet wide. Not a lot of space. Okay. We went in, we got our first truck. So I've got queens going this way, right? For all my displays. And then we took mattresses and laid them sideways the other way. We turned them 90 degrees here, and we had 26-inch walkway between them. Ooh, tight. We like shuffle through. And I was like, how did I miss this? Did I not take a tape measure? Like, I don't miss details like this. So I was like, oh man, we messed up big time. Like, I was fully anticipating the fire department to come in and shut me down. Nobody can make it through with a wheelchair. Nobody can make it through without shimmying to the side.
Yeah.
And I had to start to cheat. And there were times before I had a warehouse, right? where I get a truck and literally stuff was stacked to the ceiling and it was dangerous in my store. I look back and go, I don't know how I didn't get shut down. I don't know how I didn't get hurt. So that was my huge red flag.
Okay.
The other thing that there's two other things that I would change. And both of these were learning processes. In the beginning, I shot the worst content ever. It was all long form. It was horrible. It all started off, hey, I'm Johnny the mattress guy, Mattress By Appointment, North Iowa, blah, blah, blah. Swipe, they're gone. They don't care, right? You haven't presented a problem. There's no hook. There's no solution. And so my content in the beginning was bad, really bad. I look back at it and I just cringe. Now I do all the quick cut, short content. One, I was actually shooting one before we jumped on this. And then the other thing is like, I'm not saying take every deal because you got to draw a line in the sand. But I told you about that mentality earlier. When they walk in the door, I'm $75 in the hole.
Yeah.
Like you got to get that money back. You got to get that money back. I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a family in here the other day. They fell in love with one of my mattresses that normally in a king is $1,950. They needed a platform bed. They got approved for $1,500. That included the bump on Qualify. And I'm like, if it makes you happy, I get a picture and a Google 5-star review, I'll sell it to them. Yeah, I was at like 42% margin, but like they had just moved to town. They were happy. They love me. They're going to tell everybody about me.
Yeah.
Whatever. Make it happen. Could I have walked them down further down the line and gone, hey, you can't afford this, but you can afford this. What do you think? Because I knew that they loved it. I'm like, whatever, just order another one, Johnathan.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. That's good. Get the deal done. Last question. Somebody's wanting to open a store today. What is the first piece of advice you would give that person who's opening their mattress store?
Super simple. This is as simple as it comes. The second that you realize that you are not in the mattress selling business, that you are in the marketing business, and selling mattresses comes secondary, the better that you will do. When you wake up in the morning with marketing on your mind, whether it's your ads that you guys do for me, my marketplace, my social media content creation, when you wake up and understand that's job number one, you are going to do so much better in this business. The selling of the mattresses comes secondary to the marketing to get people in the door. Simple as can be.
That's awesome. That's great advice. That is great advice from the wonderful Johnathan Morrison, who is a fantastic store owner and a great Lego buff. Just really and truly a great Lego buff.
It's the room, I'm not going to call it a man cave because it's in the attic. So it's going to be called the Matic. The electrician is coming over this week to figure out if we need to pump up the house to 200 amps to be able to handle everything that's going upstairs. And then HVAC is going up there. Hattie goes to daycare starting on the 20th. I hate to sound like a horrible father, but I can't wait until we have some structure during the day. Oh, I get to be an adult from 9 to 4:30? Awesome. Yeah. And so as soon as she goes to daycare, construction crews are coming in, and then we can start building, man. Got some sets I gotta build.
I love it. I love it.
Including the one from you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Awesome. I sincerely appreciate your time. I thank you for taking some time out of your day and getting on here with me and giving people some insight. And I hope it helps somebody out there. I'm sure it will. And we look forward to helping you crush in 2025. And maybe we'll do a year in review episode in 2026.
You just want to you want to just meet every January 3rd or something?
I think it's let's
hash it out.
Let's make a
I appreciate all the
my little podcast helper.
Margot, was that Margot?
Yeah.
I think we should hash it out. I appreciate I've been with you guys coming up on 2.5 years, and I appreciate you and what the team and everybody does. I feel like I can send off a text message, and I applaud you. You guys have the best hours ever. You guys give more vacation time to your people in your business than anybody I know. Like, you guys are better than banker hours. So if this doesn't work, whatever, I changed my mind. I'm coming to work for you because of your vacation schedule. I'm like, we treat
vacation again. We treat our team real well. That's for sure.
Good.
That's for sure. All right, boss. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll let you know when this is up and live and people can listen to your genius.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Sweet. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Mark.
Bye bye.